You- Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Adi Onayemi, your host for this evening's Membership Master Vault webinar. On behalf of Rotary International, Zones 25B and 29, thank you for joining us and for making the time to invest in what is quite frankly the lifeblood of our organization, membership growth and retention. We have a strong hour ahead, so let's get right into it. The webinar is being recorded and the replay will be made available for you to share with your clubs and leadership teams. We encourage your participation. Please use the Q&A function throughout the session. Our team will be monitoring and will bring as many questions as possible to the discussion. We'll also be using a live poll. So, we will be talking about better onboarding, more personal connections, clearer pathways to involvement, and things like that. Please take a moment to ready yourself and please participate. Tonight, we're focusing on a critical continuum, attracting members, engaging them early, and ultimately retaining them meaningfully. We've assembled a panel that brings both strategic perspective and real-world application. Leading our discussion is past District Governor Barbara Bartle, Assistant Rotary Membership Coordinator, who will guide us through practical approaches to strengthening the early member experience. She's joined by leaders from the Lincoln Rotary Club 14, Club President Randy Hawthorne, and Membership Co-Chair Andrew Lorden. They will share how their club is approaching membership growth and intentionally getting good results. And stay with us through the full hour because we are especially pleased that Rotary International Director-elect Tom Gump will wrap up the webinar with a focused perspective on retention. Trust me, it will be worth your time. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for this evening, past District Governor Demetrius Harrell. Demetrius, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Addie, and thank you, all of our listeners around our zone and around the world. We are excited tonight to talk about a subject that we know will impact and influence membership. I cannot wait to see the incredible leaders that will be talking with us tonight. But to get you involved and to get you active, let's pull up that first poll question. All right, let's see what you have to say. Which area would most improve the early year experience for new members? Please start your answers now. Better onboarding, more personal connection, clearer pathways to involvement, mentorship or buddy system, celebrating early contributions. What do you think? Get involved. Make sure you're pressing those buttons. All right. Oh my goodness. I love it. Mentorship and buddy system. I think this is incredible, giving people opportunity to see what Rotary looks like through the eyes of others who have been there. And so I can't wait to introduce to you not only a classmate of mine during our amazing year of Imagine Rotary, my dear friend. I want to give you all the opportunity to hear just a little bit about Barb Bartle. Barb is the past president of the Lincoln Rotary Club 14. She was selected as part of a team leader for Rotary International's Group Study Exchange in India in 2022. She served as the Rotary District Governor, was I think was one of the most fascinating classes of 22, 23, and she has served as the Assistant Rotary Coordinator in membership. She has also been very involved and engaged in areas with her husband to help us in our initiation to eradicate polio. She definitely delivered those drops. She has served as the RI President's Rep twice in Canada and another time in Poland. She also has been a major donor and a part of the Bequest Society. But what I believe is so impactful is she believes that we are people of action, putting together the opportunity to give forms of love, giving it through the legs that we stand, the hands that we work. And Rotary is something we live together and serve through our clubs and our community as well as our world. Not only can I say a dear friend, but also a colleague in the world of Rotary. I turn it over to my dear friend, past District Governor Barb Bartle.
Thank you, Demetris. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
that lovely introduction. And I just want to say how wonderful it's been to have you in my life and now to serve as an assistant coordinator for you for membership. And I will mention, because we may have people on the webinar, the three areas that I serve are District 6000, District 5970, and of course, my district, which is 5650. So thank you for that great introduction. Well, tonight, the heart of our presentation is "You Belong Here." That's a tagline for our Rotary Club. And I think by the end of this session, you will understand why we've had great success in Rotary 14. Over 120 years ago, our founder, Paul Harris, was starting that first club with his friends in Chicago in 1905. And just a few short years later, in 1910, Rotary 14 was founded and launched in Lincoln, Nebraska. We are very proud of that, as you can tell, because we carry that number in the name of our club, Rotary 14. And this is a downtown noon club. We have at our heyday before COVID, we were over 300 members. Today, we have just about 285 members. But I think it's important to understand our culture is that this traditional Rotary Club, one of the first grants they provided after the flu epidemic in 1918 was to lead the community and help fund the first community hospital in Lincoln. And that's the type of work that this club has done now for 116 years. This is the largest club in our district. And our goal this year, which is why we're excited to talk to all of you, is amazing. Our membership committee set a goal of 50 new members this year. Clearly, our club president and membership chair heard the rallying call for Let's Grow membership, and we want to share some of these ideas with you. So we are currently at 35 new members, and our committee feels strongly that by the end of June, we are going to reach our goal of 50 new members. So what is this secret sauce? Tonight, our Rotary 14 president, Randy Hawthorne, and our co-membership chair, Andrew Loudon, are going to share some of those ingredients for membership growth and retention. So thank you both for being here. Let's show them our secret sauce.
Thank you, Barbara. And I just wanted to let you know that we're at 39 new members. I just checked
That's
about 5 minutes
great.
ago. So
Great.
we're on the way up. I did want to start out today by saying it really wasn't my intent necessarily to grow our membership. I didn't approach this as a membership growth opportunity. Approached this as a member experience opportunity. And I think changing the lens on how we looked at that, even though the membership committee set a goal of 50 people, my whole throughput on all of this was we've got to create the experience that members want to be a part of. And so I think as we talk about this story, it's about building that culture around the membership experience, and then the rest of this will follow. So I've always kind of thought of Rotary as a choose your own adventure organization, especially in a larger club like ours. You know, we have 30 different opportunities in a number of areas of service in any of the seven pillars of Rotary that you can serve on. And I think that's a really valuable tool in retention in the sense that, you know, one year I might want to focus on local literacy, and the next year I might want to focus on something in Haiti, or you know, the year after that I can do something as far as feeding some of the food insecure folks. So I think that choose your own adventure just in Rotary in and of itself as an international organization helps to build that culture around attracting an intergenerational force. We are a club who has people in their 90s, and we have folks that are in their 20s. And I just think that that is something unique to the fabric of a community organization these days. In all the work that I'm looking at, young people like that intergenerational approach, and they love the fact that it is not forced networking. And all that we're doing on all of this, it's authentic. It's working side by side and doing things together in a very authentic way that ultimately builds those relationships. And I think that's just, part of why we're being successful is we're purposefully, in as much as we're trying to recruit young people. We've had, we had a 90-year-old join this year. Uh, and we had a panel of some of our longtime Rotarians talk at a club meeting because I wanted that to share that multi-generational experience with our young people that are joining with this. And it's all about that. This whole notion of you belong here wasn't a tagline for me. It's a through line for me. It's how I look at how we are building the experiences that we're having with that. It's an operating philosophy. So everything from what I thought was going to be just a time filler on my first meeting became something that was looked forward to. So we have a table talk on just random topics, sometimes fun, sometimes serious, but everyone gets an opportunity to talk at the tables. And that has been a meeting favorite through all of that. And, we're non-political, we're non-religious, so it gives that opportunity around those tables just to learn something about each other that doesn't have to be divisive. And so those are some of the things that we looked at, and we also, wanted to get great programs as we always have at Club 14, but just make the meetings worth attending. Nothing matters beyond that. If you make the meetings worth attending, and that could involve slaying some sacred cows. I like music just like some of the others, but it's not always the best use of our time if we're trying to get everyone involved. Sometimes it can be isolating. So thinking through those things, when do we do music? When do we don't? When do we don't do that? Maybe bring in professionals to do music, um, things of that nature. So the meeting experience has to earn that hour every week for me. We have to earn that hour that the people give to us. And that includes that we've stayed hybrid. And I think if we took it away now, that hybrid approach to our meetings we still get a good 30, 40 members that tune in that way. Um, I'm in London right now. I tuned in today to watch the meeting because it's just that important. So I just think as I turn it over to Andrew to talk about this whole growth in membership, membership is contagious. And I think some of the things that Andrew and his team have put together talks about that the contagiousness of that. So if we have a culture worth catching, people want to be a part of that. So Andrew, I'm going to hand it over to you and you can talk a little bit more about this.
You bet. There's no doubt that our secret sauce at Club 14 is Randy Hawthorne. But what I really mean is it's Barbara Bartle. It's our leaders over the last 28 years that I've been a member who have created the culture that Randy described. And for most of the time that I've been a member, we were over 300 members. But like most of those listening and tuning in today, the pandemic did a number on us. And we found ourselves at the end of last Rotary year at well under 250, which is not where we wanted to be as a large club. And so our membership recruitment committee took this seriously. And this is not my first rodeo. This is my third time as membership recruitment chair. And we decided to do something different. This time, what we did the same is solicit ideas of new members from the membership. So at the beginning of the year, at both a club meeting and in an email sent to our members, I asked every one of our members in Club 14 to identify one person who was not a Rotarian, but we already really considered a Rotarian. And we all know those people in our community and in other civic organizations or houses of worship who put service above self, and they're already a Rotarian and don't know it. And one organization in our community, whether that was a business or a nonprofit or a governmental agency that did not have a representative. And we asked every one of our then 230 members to identify one person, one organization. We've done that before. It resulted in lots of awesome recommendations. We put it together in a spreadsheet. But here's the difference. The last two times I've done this, we've said, great, thank you to our members. Thank you for identifying the prospective Rotarians. And then we said, now would you please invite them to attend? It doesn't work well. So what we did instead is we recruited a committee of super extroverts. We're the people who like to extrovert all over you. We have no problem inviting somebody we don't know to the club. And so what we did is we did not ask our fellow Rotarians who identified the members to recruit the members. Our 8 members of our committee, and Randy's one of them because, he's crazy. Not only is he the president, but he's one of our top recruiters too. So the 8 of us have gone out and we have actively invited people, and many of whom we didn't know, but that's okay. That's the type of people we are. We're recruiters. We're salespeople, many of us, or outgoing professionals, and we went and invited the folks. And frankly, as far as membership goes, that's the secret sauce, is finding the people in your club who are super comfortable recruiting people. Look at what they do for a living or what they do in the nonprofit world. They're the people who bring people together. And then ask your membership, poll your membership for ideas of new members, but don't ask. And we have a lot of folks in our club who just are not comfortable inviting somebody. And a lot of them have admitted that to me, and that's okay. There's an older gentleman in our club who had a great idea of a younger female professional in the community. And he said, I just don't feel comfortable asking her to. And so one of our members, another young female professional, was the one, and she joined the club. And that's pretty great. And so I would say the key here on membership recruitment is to find the people in your club who don't find it to be a challenge to invite people they don't know to the club, and then assign them the task of going and getting those folks. And I have no doubt that by the end of June, we'll have well over 50 new members and be back, and that was our real goal, is to get back to being over 300 members, which is where Club 14 needs to be. In Lincoln, we are the service club in town. We're the only service club that has large numbers of young and female members, and that's been our emphasis. And finding organizations that are not represented, we offer a corporate membership where three individuals can be members for the price of two if the employer. We just had two banks in town sign up to do that. So combination of strategies, but we're going out and getting them. But then, as was mentioned at the beginning, even more important is to retain them. So I'm going to hand it back to President Randy to talk about what our club is going to do and his personal mission to retain these over 50 new Rotarians that we will bring in this year.
So we talked about the longevity of our club, 14th oldest club in the world. As you can imagine, there are some red tape ghosts that have been around for a long time as far as our membership process is concerned, and maybe some people that like to hold on to some of those sacred cows around all of that. So I've spent a good portion of the year in, how do we get the membership so that they feel immediately welcomed into this. And a lot of us go through this process of there's a two reading series. You need to get a proposer and all of that. And we instituted this year kind of this member in waiting process. So we have a yellow badge, a red badge, and a blue badge. Our yellow badge means that they have signed up to become a member. They've gone through all the process, but we haven't read them in yet. They haven't had the time. But rather than waiting for a member for them to feel like they can come to Rotary, to sponsor them those weeks that they're waiting, they are now welcome right away. And the interesting thing is, we've had yellow badge members actually bring guests and are already introducing them to be potential members. So that's the yellow badge process. A lot of clubs have had the red badge process where basically we want people to know that there are new members in the club, but we also want those new members to check off a few boxes of things of engagement when they're in the club as well. So that's been a long-term thing. We've continued to work on that though, in the sense that at the beginning of the year, I had no idea that I was going to be taking 50 new members to a beverage of their choice. But I offered at the very beginning, every time someone signs on, they get a beverage with me of their choice. I won't tell you which one's my favorite, but it might be more toward this day part. Um, But and almost every one of them has taken me up on that. And my sole purpose for that is for me to get to know them and to get to know what turns their gears so that I can get them engaged in the appropriate committee. It's just one more layer. I mean, we have new member committees that are also doing this, but there's something to be said for your president that reaches out and really wants to get to know a new member one-on-one like that. It's very powerful. And so we have instituted a group called NEOS. It's been around forever, maybe as old as the term, which basically NEOS means new in Greek. And that is a small fellowship organization where newer members are able to just come together and learn basically what's kind of going on in the club right now. So today we had our big Nebraskan of the Year, which was a big event. So the NEOS meeting probably last week was about what does this mean for our club and why is it here and how long have we been doing it and all of that. But our longer time members actually love to go to NEOS because they can connect with the newer members. And so we also instituted something. It's like the basics of Rotary. It's once a month, right after a Rotary meeting, where we go through this is Club Runner and this is how this works. And actually, we've also had longer time members come to that just to get refreshers on that as well. We have a membership concierge table. so that new members and long-term members that don't understand Club Runner either can get things registered or find out what committee meetings are happening and all of that sort of thing. Just another place for our new members to get plugged in. So, um, so basically, my post presidency is going to be continuing to work on that member experience because if you work on the membership experience, growth takes care of itself. And with that, Barb, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Randy. I want to thank you, Randy and Andrew, not just for your presentation tonight, but what tremendous leadership you've provided this year, and now some of the successful ingredients that you're sharing about our goals in membership in Rotary 14. And I think the ingredient that binds all of the secret sauce together is a sense of belonging. We welcome everyone and appreciate everyone. And I think the tagline fits well. The continuum is Rotary 14, you belong here. So I just want to close with a quote that I really like. Human rights activist Malcolm X was born in Nebraska and was recently elected to be represented in our Nebraska Hall of Fame. His quote on the plaque states this: "We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience, and patience creates unity. Let us unite for good." Thank you all.
Thank you all. I am so impressed with the opportunity that we have before us. We can take this secret sauce and put it on everything because the taste is sweet and it's taste like membership. Let's pull up that next poll question before we bring our Rotary Director-elect to the floor. All right, let's get involved and let's fill the gap. What is the biggest factor influencing member retention in your club right now? Because the Lincoln Club has given us all of the magic. Feeling connected, clear purpose, impact, club culture, time or schedule conflicts, and unclear expectations. What do you find to be the factor? You know, Barb, you and your team, not only did you all, Randy and Andrew, provide us such great guidance and wisdom, but you let me know that belonging to one of the most impactful organizations around the world is really the true secret sauce. So we need to get involved. What's going to be the outcome of this question? Here we go. It is loading right now. I always want to thank Lloyd and Farron working behind the scenes, feeling connected. Director-elect, I think you would say that this is the reason why Rotary has such great value. It is the vessel that keeps us vibrant, feeling connected. And so I want to bring to you all, he needs no introduction, but he is the man that has rubbed shoulders with our president, Stephanie, traveled around the world, making everyone feel as though we are his best friend. So Addie, I know, Addie, it may feel like you or Lord or Kristen, but we all love Tom. And so to tell us more, here is our Rotary Director-elect for zones 25B and 29. Thank you, Past District Governor Tom.
Well, thank you very much, Rotary Membership Coordinator Demetris, and thank you all for coming here to present today. I always love going to Nebraska, going to Club 14, and just seeing all the positive energy that's there. And it's interesting, Demetris, we're talking about the secret sauce, and at dinner time, you guys are starting to make me hungry. But so glad to be here to talk about what is Rotary's really our number one internal priority. Our number one external programmatic priority is eradicating polio, of course, but our number one internal priority is actually growing Rotary. Now, how do I know that? Well, it's in the policy statement, but we hear it also. I'm energized because last week we had 3 days of board meetings, and we had 2 days of retreats for our next two classes that my class that starts on July 1st and the second year directors working together. And it's such a fascinating time to be in Rotary. So before we continue on the secret sauce conversation, I'd like to give you a little bit of update. Of course, there's some things that we can't discuss until the minutes come out and they're approved and that kind of thing. But let me tell you a little bit about what's going on with Rotary membership internationally and then how it fits in with our paired zones here. So, for the first time in Rotary's history, there is a 5-year membership goal. It's referred to as the 2030 membership goal. And what it does is it has us growing to 1.25 million Rotarians, including Rotaractors, by 2025, by 2030. And why is that important? Because in 2030, we'll be 125 years of age. We just turned 121. Rotary will turn 125 in 2030. So at the convention in Chicago, we'll be celebrating our 125th anniversary, but also the growth of our organization to 1.25 million people. Now, what do we have to do to get to 1.25 million? Basically, what we need to do is we need to add 25,000 a year every year between now for the next 5 years to 2025. Of course, if we miss a year, then we have to grow more than that. Now, 25,000 may not sound like a lot because it's basically 2% of our current membership. However, the worldwide, we have been declining at a rate somewhere between 1 and 2% for the last 5 years, which is the last time we had membership growth. Of course, as of today, Rotary International is plus 60 for the year, but we have what some people call the golden arches, not to risk trademark infringement, but we have a growth in Rotary that goes down in January, then goes up again and goes down in June. On that, we are right now at the point in time we are in the year, we're at the top of that second M. So hopefully we can keep growing and have a positive net growth, which would be the first time in 5 years. So we've been declining about 2%, and we have to get to 2%, but we really believe this can be done. So how is it going to be done? At the January board meeting, the Rotary International Board of Directors took a vote to have 5 regional membership summits around the world, different areas of the world. We are inviting the last 2 membership coordinators. So, of course, we'd have Demetrius there representing us. And ours in North America is going to be August 17th and 18th at Rotary headquarters. And then in South America, it's August 21st and 22nd, and then various times throughout the world. But all 5 will happen in the first quarter. So the regional membership coordinators are going to get together. And right now, Rotary staff, along with input from volunteers and the board of directors, is coming up with the plan of how to get the most out of this. So what we're going to do is there are actually going to be, for the first time ever, and let me tell you why we know this is going to be successful. You know, this whole program that's been designed by RI, Rotary International President nominee Larry, and RI President-elect Yinka, they have designed this plan, but it's based on something we know that works. At the end of last year, the Rotary Foundation had a similar plan, and that was to have $2.025 billion in the foundation by 2025. And we made that goal actually on the last day of the year last year. So we are following a model that they used for that campaign. So using the Rotary Public Image Coordinators and the membership coordinators together to come together. And why are we having regionalized meetings? Because growing Rotary is different in every area of the world. Overall, the Northern Hemisphere, there's some exceptions, but the Northern Hemisphere has been declining and the Southern Hemisphere has been growing. Of course, there's exceptions, like I said, in both areas. But what works in one area, what works in Africa, what works in Asia may not work for North America. There's different factors. There's socioeconomic status. There's a growing middle class in some areas. There's a shrinking middle class in some areas. But what we need to know for this particular discussion today is that we know that sustainable growth is the most important thing. We know that Club 14 in Nebraska has grown this year, but we don't want them to grow this year and then lose members last year or lose more members than they brought in. So we need to look at membership growth in Rotary International in a holistic approach, because a holistic approach is the only approach that makes sense and makes us continue to grow. So I want all of you, when you're thinking about, when you go back to your districts, you go back to your clubs, think about a holistic approach. Now, we know why people join Rotary. That's a good question to ask when we're thinking about attracting people. We know why people leave Rotary, and we're talking tonight about retention or engagement. So really, there's only 3 ways to grow Rotary. And we talk about this a lot in the Rotary International Membership Growth Committee, but we're not just talking, we're actually living it and doing it. And I want you to know I'm really proud of our board over the last few years. When I started a few years ago on the membership committee, our scope of reference, we have committees in Rotary International. Those committees make recommendations to the board of directors, and those 17 directors, along with the president-elect and the president, constitute the board and they implement decisions. Decisions are also made at the Council on Legislation. But the scope of reference, which every committee has, ours for the membership committee, short, condensed Reader's Digest version, said that we will take recommendations that we think are best to the board of directors for approval. It didn't say we'll all go back to our zones, go back to our districts, go back to our clubs and actually do something. So at the last couple meetings we had of this year, 2 meetings ago, I asked everyone on the board to tell us what one thing, concrete thing, are they going to do in their area to actually grow Rotary. And of course, at that meeting, we did real life things instead of just sitting in the 18th floor of Rotary International and in some ivory tower and talk about membership. We actually did membership. At the end of that meeting, 2 meetings ago, we actually signed cards to new Rotarians, new members who actually joined Rotary for the local clubs. We also went out at our lunch breaks and we actually spoke to Rotary clubs in the Evanston area. Evanston, Illinois is where the headquarters is for Rotary. So at the last meeting we had for this year, that's our last online meeting, I said, okay, what did everyone actually do? And it was amazing when we went around the room and there's leaders from all over the world, what they're doing now to actually activate it. I loved when President Randy Hawthorne was speaking. I loved how he talked about club experience. I loved about how he talked about culture, but he used the word purposely. And Randy, that is a brilliant word. I'm trying to say that we all need to be intentional. That's what Rotary International President nominee Larry Lunsford talked to me about. When I was, and all of us, he's been teaching us to be intentional. And I don't care how you are intentional as long as you are intentional. So let's talk about the holistic approach. Then I want to talk to you about one way that I was intentional as a president, because let's face it, Rotary happens at the club level. It doesn't happen on the 18th floor of headquarters in Rotary International. It happens in your clubs. It happens in your districts. If we're going to grow Rotary, it's going to happen at the clubs. If we're going to raise money for the foundation, it's going to happen at the clubs. So what does a club need to do to grow Rotary? Well, first, we need to attract new members. That's one thing. The second thing is what we're focusing here on tonight, and that's retention or engagement. And the third thing we need to do is we need to start new clubs. So let's just talk about each of those individually. But then we'll focus on what we're here to focus on tonight, which is retention. So, attraction. We need to attract those new members. The way that my club did it, we brought in 5 members the day before I became president. And during my president year, together we, remember our vision statement in Rotary, together we see a world where people unite to take action to create lasting change across the globes, in our communities, and in ourselves. Well, together we grow Rotary. I love how we said that the committee has to be people, not just the people who are the extroverts, but all of us. We've all visited those clubs and have been a part of clubs where 1 or 2 people bring in 80% of the members. We have to intentionally attract members. So who do we attract? Well, we were intentional about it. When I became president of my club, what I did is, first of all, you know how those board meetings go. You get the agenda and it lists everything on the agenda. And the first thing is, of course, it's review the minutes. And the second thing is we review the financials. The third thing is we talk about our next fundraiser, our next event, our next social. But you know what we don't talk about is we don't talk about membership. So when I go around this time of year for our president-elect learning seminars, in some areas of the world, especially down in our zone 25B in Texas, they still say training because there's different emphasis. Training being you have to learn how to be an officer. Learning is more a facilitated approach, adult learning with, but it doesn't matter if you facilitate or if you train, we have to talk about being intentional. We have to be intentional. So we talked about belonging, and I love the quotes that Demetrius gave, and it was great when past district governor Barbara talked about Malcolm X and the belonging and the love. That's all part of this. But we have to look in our communities, and we want our clubs to reflect the communities we are in. We have stronger clubs if they're diverse. And I know a lot of times in the United States, at least, we talk about diversity in terms of race. We have to be diverse in all areas. We have to be diverse in age. We have to be diverse, of course, in race. We have to be diverse in social and economic status. We need to be diverse in thought. Clubs that are diverse are stronger clubs. If we have a problem and we only have everyone being homogeneous and only thinking one way, you're going to miss potential solutions. So diversity is important. And thank you all for talking about that. But going back to attraction, our first thing, and then don't worry, Randy, we're going to get to club culture. That's the thing, the club culture experience that wraps around these 3 and makes all of them easier. So we'll get to that. But attraction. What we did in our club is we simply listed the alphabet out, A through Z. And we looked at our club and we wrote down every vocation that we have and the vocations that we were missing. So for A, we had accountants. For B, we had bankers. C, we had CPA, all the way down to L for landscaper. That's all we got in that year was L landscaper. But we did get a landscaper and a librarian. We never got to Z zookeeper, but I haven't given up that yet. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way to look at your community and to see what you have and what you don't have, but it was a way, and it was a systematic way, and it was an intentional way. So we forced ourselves to look. We didn't have an architect. We did have Bob Seeger, who was not the musician, the gentleman, the different member named Bob Seeger, but he had retired from being an architect. So someone called their cousin who was an architect who lived in town. That person joined. So that's just one way. Think of a way to do that. The second way, which we're focusing on tonight, so we bring members in. The second thing is we retain or we engage. I love the word engage because it means getting people involved. So engagement is so important. How do I know it's important? Well, every year, Rotary International does an all member survey and it does a leadership survey. The leadership survey, which is surveying the presidents, surveying our district governors, they take that vision statement we talked about, they took our action plan, which has 4 priorities, and we asked them, rank those priorities. What's most important to you as a leader in Rotary? And it always comes back, last year it was about 78% that said engagement was the most important thing. And to me, that makes sense. If we engage our people, we keep them active, they stay. And then they're happy and they tell their friends, and the people they work out with, and the people they worship with, and their neighbors and their families, um, people they work with. They ask them to join. So, how do we engage our members? There's all kinds of different ways. My wife's club, they assign every new member. I love the um, blue badge, yellow badge, red badge, and that progression from red to yellow to blue. And I love that idea because people have to do things, they have to be engaged. But my wife's club, she's in the same town, but she meets at noon at the country club. We meet on Tuesday morning at the country club. They assign every new member to a committee. So then that way they're involved with that committee. They have someone to talk to at lunch and someone to talk to at the socials. You know, I was a proud Rotarian when I was president. And much like Randy, I was saying, okay, I'm pretty excited. We got 31 members. That's wonderful. And a PDG told me, well, Tom, doesn't matter if you, and with the help of others, because everything happens with the help of others, doesn't matter if you and your team brought in 31 members if you don't keep them. And he was so right. The Rotary International studies that we do every year, basically we bring in 150,000 people, new members into Rotary, but then we lose usually about 160,000. So we're losing more than we bring in. And the scary part is when we lose those individuals. We lose 10% of our new members within the first year of them joining. Within the first year, we lose over 50% of our members. So think about that. If we had 150,000 members that we brought in the last 10 years, if we kept those, um, we would have 1.5 million people. We'd already, in addition to what we already have, so we'd already be at the 2030 goal. So engagement is important, and I applaud Demetrius and this whole team for talking about it. So there's lots of different ways to engage. When new members come in, do a new member orientation. But when you do that new member orientation, make sure it's just not a PowerPoint that says, this is our club, in my case, the Edina Morningside Rotary Club, and we do it this way. Have it be a two-way conversation. And the old zones 30 and 31, we just realigned. They had a great orientation where they would ask people when they came in, what do you want to do? And it's interesting, you might have someone who was involved in a youth exchange program. Maybe it was FAS, Future Farmers of America, or a school program. It wasn't the Rotary program. Well, they might want to do that in Rotary when they find out there's youth exchange. But be careful when you do these new member orientations. Don't make it be all about your club. Because I am of the firm belief, because I lived it, Rotary, people don't leave Rotary International, they leave a club. Maybe the culture is not good, maybe the experience is not good. So they might have a fight with someone because they disagree on something. They leave the club. If you let them know Rotary's larger than their club, let them know there's a district, let them know there's a region, let them know there is a zone, let them know there's Rotary International. I mean, there are all kinds of things they could join. And if they're not happy with their club, we want to keep them. We don't. And so I just got the 1 minute sign, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. So do that new member orientation, tell them about Rotary. The last way we grow is to create new clubs. So we bring them in, we go ahead and motivate them, retain them, we go ahead and start new clubs. Wrapped around all that is the club culture that Randy was so good to talk about. How do we have a good club culture? Do a survey, do it once a year. Why? Because your culture is constantly changing. New people are coming in, other people are leaving. So what your club wants now might be different from what it was last year. So we are out of time. So I will turn it back over to Demetrius. But thank you so much for letting me be here with you tonight. Please let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. Just reach out. To you, Addie.
Thank you, my dear friend. Of course, you had to bring my good friend and classmate Demetrius in. Anyway, thank you for the insight and thank you to our entire panel. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've heard tonight. Our opening poll asked, where we can most improve the early experience for new members? What came through clearly, both in your response and in the discussions, is that there is no single lever. It is the alignment of onboarding, personal connection, listening to these members, clear pathways to involvement, engagement, mentorship, and the early recognition that determines whether a new member simply joins or truly belongs. So, from Barb, Randy, and Andrew's framework of the secret sauce to the practical insights from the Lincoln Rotary Club 14, to the powerful information and closing from Tom Gump, we've been reminded of a simple truth. People don't stay because they joined Rotary. They stay because Rotary becomes meaningful to them early. That is our charge. As you return to your clubs, I leave you with 3 actions. Those that our director-elect mentioned. Also, again, survey, audit your first 90 days for every new member. Assign ownership. Someone must be accountable for the member experience. Create early wins. Make contribution visible, valued, and celebrated. Do this well, and retention is no longer something you chase. It becomes the natural outcome of a strong member experience. Before we close, I want to personally invite you to our next membership Master Vault session on May 19th. It's coming up. Event to Member Conversion Playbook. Event to Member Conversion Playbook. This is a convenient, result-driven webinar designed to help your club transform its events, whether service projects, socials, or community presentations, into consistent membership pipelines. We'll talk through how to design events with conversion in mind, engage attendees in meaningful and intentional ways, and follow up with a clear, compelling pathway to membership. Let's be candid. Clubs invest enormous energy into events, yet many walk away without capturing contact information, without building relationships, and without inviting attendees into the Rotary experience. This session gives you a complete, repeatable system to change that. Thank you again for your leadership, your engagement, and your commitment to strengthening Rotary from the inside out. We look forward to continuing this work with you on May 19th. Until then, take what you've heard tonight and put it to work. Thank you for your service. Good night. Yours in Rotary Service.